Welcome to the Nation of History channel. Be sure to subscribe and like so you don't miss out on more videos like this one. An American Marine reaches out to rescue a woman and her child hiding in a cave during the Battle of Saipan in 1944. The record highlights efforts to protect civilians trapped amid the intense Pacific advance during the Second World War. Humanitarian aid took place in harsh terrain. Hungarian prisoners go through a selection process on the rail platform of a detention camp in occupied Poland in 1944. The record documents the moment when officials decided the immediate fate of those arriving by freight trains. The scene shows the industrial scale of persecution in Europe. An American soldier shelters an injured Japanese boy inside his aircraft to protect him from the rain while they wait for help. The record captures a moment of personal compassion amid Pacific fighting during the Second World War. Humanitarian help offered a rare refuge against devastation. During a televised political debate on October 12, 1960, socialist leader Inajiro Asanuma was attacked in Tokyo. The young Otoya Yamaguchi used a traditional Japanese object to strike the politician on stage. The event had a major impact on Japanese society in that decade. A child holds a doll amid the rubble of a damaged street in London in late 1940. The record comes from the Blitz period, when sustained air raids hit civilian and residential areas of the capital. The image sums up resilience and human loss faced by the British population during that phase of the Second World War. During the 1910s, sculptor Anna Coleman Ladd used her artistic skill to restore dignity to veterans injured in the First World War. In her studio, she made custom facial prosthetics from galvanized copper, carefully painted to match skin tone and the soldier's features. A Soviet spy smiles at his Finnish captor in a snowy forest during the Winter War in 1939. The record, declassified by Finland's Ministry of Defense, shows the outcome of a conflict marked by guerrilla tactics and resistance under extreme cold in Eastern Europe. An improvised sign hanging from a man's neck bears Cyrillic writing that points to resistance against local authorities. The setting suggests a rustic village beneath mountains in a region under Russian influence. This kind of public punishment was meant to discourage similar actions in the local community. A Japanese woman smiles amid the rubble after the nuclear event in Nagasaki in 1945. The record captures the contrast between total urban devastation and human resilience in the face of an unprecedented historical moment. The silhouette of a church in the background underscores the impact on the local community. Sergeant John Parks appears in a 1944 portrait wearing his United States Armored Commander helmet. His tired expression reflects the strain of field operations during the world conflict. He died in service only 2 days after this photograph was taken. London's sky in the middle of 1945 became the stage for an unprecedented technological threat during the Second World War. A V-1 flying bomb, a precursor to modern cruise missiles, is captured diving straight toward the British capital. The record conveys the air terror that defined the final months of the conflict in Europe. Women say goodbye to soldiers aboard a transport ship in 1963 bound for Egypt. The record captures tension and uncertainty during a period of global rivalry as troops departed for peace missions overseas. The port served as the final setting for human bonds before long journeys. A double-deck streetcar appears tilted against the front of a building after a crash in Woolwich, London in 1946. The incident happened during post-war rebuilding, showing the operational challenges of British public transit as city life returned to normal. A biplane appears hung up in the treetops after an incident along the River Thames in London in 1917. The incident occurred during the First World War, when mechanical failures or piloting mistakes often forced emergency landings in dense urban areas. A rescue team uses cables to evacuate the crew of a fishing boat stranded off the coast of England in 1962. Under extremely dangerous sea conditions, the operation highlights the rescuers' skill in saving lives against powerful waves crashing into the rocks. Alphonse Bertillon poses for his own invention in 1912, solidifying the system of forensic identification. The method used body measurements and front and profile photographs to catalog people with scientific precision. This standardization transformed police work worldwide. 2 human remains were discovered in an eternal embrace at the Hassanlu archaeological site in Iran. The record shows remains dated to about 800 years before the Common Era, preserved after the citadel was destroyed by a fire. The archaeological discovery offers a glimpse into ancient humanity. Joseph Goebbels looks into the camera of a photographer from the Jewish community during a League of Nations conference in Geneva. The 1933 record captures a shift from a friendly look to an expression of hostility after the photographer's identity was revealed. The image symbolizes the rise of official discrimination. German troops in Munich in 1919 face a political opponent amid the chaos of the German Revolution. The scene illustrates the institutional fragility of the Weimar Republic and the use of paramilitary forces to contain social movements. Ideological tension was shaping Europe's post-war future. The historic meeting in Rebibia took place on December 27, 1983. John Paul II visited Mehmet Ali Agca to reaffirm his personal gesture of forgiveness after the 1981 attack. The private conversation lasted about 20 minutes and became one of the major symbols of diplomacy and peace in the 20th century. Soldier Hans Conrad Schumann defies higher orders by helping a boy cross the border in Berlin in 1961. The record captures the exact moment of his defection over barbed wire fences before the wall was fully established. The individual act symbolizes resistance against German division. Australian soldiers celebrate Christmas 1943 in New Guinea amid the hardships of the Pacific Mission. Using drink bottles to form their unit's initials, the group shows resilience and the keeping of traditions even in harsh field conditions. Asaro warriors known as mudmen pose with clay masks and long bamboo fingernails in 1970. From Papua New Guinea, this cultural tradition uses gray mud to create a ghost-like look that historically helped drive off rival groups. Soldiers pose beside a 300-pound Parrott artillery piece with a shattered muzzle during the American Civil War in 1865. This rifled artillery was known for its power, but structural flaws in the metals of the time caused dangerous incidents on the battlefield. Belgian coins bent by the impact of a metal object hold the story of a soldier who survived during the First World War. The metal absorbed the force of the impact, preventing it from reaching the body of the fighter who carried them in his pocket. Such objects became family keepsakes tied to luck and survival. German soldiers gather around a small lit Christmas tree at a forward position on the Eastern Front during the First World War. The group sings holiday songs and shares readings, seeking a moment of humanity and spiritual comfort amid isolation and harsh winter conditions. A boy appears beside a saddled wild boar during the 1930s, revealing an unusual interaction with local wildlife of the time. This kind of image documents rural habits and domestic curiosities from a period when living close to large animals was part of everyday life in many regions. Aerospace engineer Max Wiedenhoft tests his bicycle fitted with thrusters and an experimental wing in Germany in 1932. Standing on the roof of an industrial building, he aimed to apply propulsion and aerodynamics concepts to lightweight ground vehicles. The effort reflects the technical boldness common in the years between the wars. London public health bills in 1665 listed the many causes of weekly deaths during a severe public health crisis. In the document, the outbreak appears with alarming numbers compared with other conditions of the time. Such records were essential for tracking the spread of disease in the English capital. Sergeant Frank Prater feeds an orphaned kitten with a dropper during the Korean War in 1952. The Marine adopted the animal after the mother cat died during the fighting. The humane gesture in a trench setting shows the contrast between the harshness of conflict and individual compassion. An American soldier interacts with a small kangaroo at an advanced Allied base in 1942. The pet served as a rare emotional lift for troops deployed in the Pacific Theater during the Second World War. Local wildlife became a small link of distraction amid isolation. Sailors jumped from the deck of a German submarine to swim in the Atlantic Ocean in 1944. This moment of relaxation at sea offered needed psychological relief for U-boat crews who faced extreme isolation during the Second World War. D-Day veterans pose inside the same aircraft that carried them to Normandy during the Second World War. The image places past and present side by side by showing the veterans seated in front of photos of their younger selves in the same cabin. The reunion marks the preservation of military memory. A man protests alone in 1932 against Bankers Trust Company holding his savings during the Great Depression. Carrying a sign demanding the return of nearly $3,000, the record shows the desperation and banking trust crisis that gripped the public. A farm woman carries a huge load of hay on her head in Cong, Italy in 1959. This traditional practice reflects the harshness of rural life in the Alps, where manual labor was essential for families who relied on farming and mountain livestock. A colossal pyramid made of hundreds of wooden barrels is built in a public square shortly before its destruction in 1929. The improvised monument symbolizes the strictness of prohibition in the United States, representing confiscated drinks that would be destroyed by federal authorities. Bobby Leach appears seated on the steel barrel he used to go down Niagara Falls on July 25, 1911. He was the second man to survive the feat, ironically dying years later due to complications from an ordinary fall on an orange peel. At Niagara Falls, United States and Canada, 1903, a wooden structure appears covered in snow and ice beside the partly frozen waterfall. Small human figures walk near the shoreline. The photo records a harsh winter and the natural power of the Niagara River in the early 20th century. In the rugged Yukon landscape, men carry heavy supplies during the peak of the mineral rush in 1897. The scene of cut trees and churned ground shows the human effort to cross difficult passes toward mining camps in far northern Canada. Construction workers balance on steel beams hundreds of meters above the ground while building the Empire State Building in New York in the 1930s. The lack of modern safety equipment highlights the boldness required to shape the American city's vertical skyline. A curious baby race draws a crowd at Palisades Park in New Jersey in 1955. Organized on an improvised track with named starting gates, the event reflects popular entertainment and community contests typical of the American suburbs. Frank Duryea poses with his motor vehicle after winning the first automobile race in the United States, held in Chicago in 1895. The historic event marked the start of the nation's competitive auto era, highlighting the shift from carriages to internal combustion engines. At a railroad crossing in 1930, a Ford Model A pickup waits patiently as a powerful steam locomotive cuts through the countryside with thick smoke. The meeting of these two engineering icons symbolizes the overlap of different eras of motor transport in the early 20th century. An inventor tests a scooter fitted with a jet-style thruster in 1931, releasing a thick cloud of smoke during the experiment. This unusual innovation reflects the technological excitement of the years between the wars, when engineers tried to apply rocket propulsion to personal transport. A clay tablet in cuneiform preserves what is considered the first written customer complaint in human history, dated to 1750 before Christ. The Babylonian document details a buyer's dissatisfaction with the delivery of a shipment of low-quality copper. Terracotta dice about 4,000 years old were found in Harappa, Pakistan, revealing how long gambling has existed in human history. This artifact from the Indus Valley civilization shows deep circular markings, demonstrating cultural development and leisure activities in ancient societies. A 3,100-year-old jar containing burned figs was discovered in Ekron, Israel, visually resembling a dinosaur egg. This archaeological find provides valuable evidence about diet and food preservation methods of civilizations that lived in the region during the Iron Age. During the Second World War, the moat of the Tower of London was turned into community gardens to secure food production amid supply restrictions. This initiative was part of a national campaign to make the United Kingdom self-sufficient, converting landmarks into productive land. A man poses beside the Mari Lwyd in Llangnwyd in 1910, preserving an old Welsh Christmas folk tradition. The custom involves a decorated horse skull mounted on a pole, carried from house to house for rhyming and singing challenges, bringing the community together through age-old rituals. On the grey streets of Great Britain in 1963, vehicles fitted with large circular antennas tracked radio frequency signals to identify homes that watched British Broadcasting Corporation programming without paying the required license fee. This public monitoring technology aimed to secure funding for the public network. During Moscow's harsh winter in the 1950s, chess enthusiasts braved the cold in public squares. Covered by thick layers of snow, these players showed the Soviet Union's deep cultural bond with the game, turning the board into an arena of intellectual endurance. Along the tree-lined sidewalks of a big city in 1939, the famous performer Zorita drew stares as she calmly walked her pet snake on a leash. The moment captured the boldness and exotic style that defined her entertainment career, challenging social norms and conservative customs of the era. In 1917, before the modern machine was invented, maintaining ice in skating rinks was a rough, labor-intensive process that required physical strength and creativity. Operators used adapted vehicles and hand scrapers to level the surface, making sure skating remained safe for city crowds. In the heart of Manhattan, workers faced the technical challenge of digging tunnels for the new subway system beneath the base of the Christopher Columbus Monument in 1901. The complex engineering required precise bracing to prevent collapse of the historic structure, marking the start of underground modernization that would forever change mobility in the city. Workers and draft animals joined forces in building the East Boston Subway Tunnel in 1900. The image captures the enormous urban engineering effort at the turn of the century, when raw muscle power and steam machinery were essential to expand mass transit infrastructure. A huge granite column is hoisted during the expansion of the United States Treasury Building in 1861. Located in Washington, District of Columbia, the neoclassical structure reflects the architectural ambition of the American capital, using complex pulley systems to lift monumental elements. A massive team of 30 horses pulls a mechanical harvester on a hillside in Washington state in 1912. The image captures the shift from animal power to mechanization on farms, requiring complex coordination to manage so many animals. That pulling power was vital for agriculture. A visual comparison between Dubai in 1981 and the modern city shows an unprecedented urban transformation in the desert. Amid the rise of massive skyscrapers and modern infrastructure, the Toyota building remains a marker of time in the landscape. Pablo Picasso poses in his studio in Paris in 1944 beside one of his Cubist works. Even during the occupation period of the Second World War, the artist stayed in the French capital, continued producing, and symbolized cultural resistance in dark times. A luxurious French limousine from 1910 shows a unique design with circular cabins and ornate windows. This vehicle represents the peak of automotive sophistication in the early 20th century, when the shift from carriages to internal combustion engines allowed bold aesthetic experiments. 3 craftswomen in Brittany, France, carefully work on a large piece of lace in 1920. The image highlights traditional clothing and the iconic tall white caps, known as coiffes. This handmade trade represented an important cultural and economic heritage for local communities. A huge decorative structure shaped like a cartoonish face forms the entrance facade of a circus show in France in 1920. The exaggerated design and surreal shapes were meant to draw a crowd and set a fantasy mood before the acts even began. This style was common at traveling fairs across Europe. In Montmartre in 1920, the Cabaret de l'Étrange offered Parisians an immersive experience with Gothic theatrical decor that evoked the underworld. Guests sat at rustic tables surrounded by demon sculptures and grotesque figures seeking extravagant entertainment. Street acrobats perform a risky act above a busy roadway in New York in 1931. Suspended by cables, the pair draws the attention of pedestrians and drivers in a period marked by the Great Depression, when public entertainment offered a brief social distraction. Acrobat Lillian Boyer shows extreme bravery by hanging from a rope ladder beneath an airplane in flight in the United States in 1922. Famous for dangerous aerial stunts, she embodies the bold spirit of aviation pioneers who aim to entertain crowds. Dangerously suspended at the 24th floor of the Hotel McAlpin in 1922, Harry Gardner, known as the Human Fly, defied gravity before a crowd in New York. His bold urban climbing shows captured the era's fascination with records and public displays of extreme bravery. 2 young men take on a daring pose at Lookout Mountain in Tennessee in 1917. One grips his friend's hand, while the other leans out from a high rock ledge. Photos like this show that the urge to capture adrenaline moments existed more than a century ago. A horse is hoisted using a complex system of pulleys and ropes during a mining operation in 1896. The image shows how heavily animal power was used in underground work and the logistical effort needed to move the animals. These animals were vital to industrial productivity in that era. In the mountains of Jiangyu in 1930, a monk crosses a chain bridge that tests balance and human courage. This sacred place in Sichuan province served as a spiritual refuge where architecture blended into the cliffs to connect temples isolated by nature. The imposing sailing ship Cromdale appears stranded in 1913 after facing dangerous coastal waters. Considered the last clipper built for the Australian wool trade, the ship symbolizes the end of an era in commercial shipping when large sailing vessels dominated global routes. A Wells Fargo Express stagecoach waits in front of the company office in Cisco, California, in 1870. The record captures intense logistical activity in the American West, where horses and wagons were vital for moving valuables and mail across remote areas. The Oglala warrior Red Hawk waits as his horse rests and drinks water in the Badlands of North Dakota in 1905. The photograph captures dignity and traditional clothing of this Native American people, documenting a way of life facing major change in the early 20th century. A Sangli mixed heritage woman poses for a portrait in 1885 in the Philippines during the Spanish colonial period. The term identified descendants of Chinese and local natives, representing an influential social class in the archipelago. The traditional clothing reflects the cultural blending that shaped the nation's identity. 3 blacksmiths who specialized in making heavy chains pose with their work tools in 1899. Using large hammers and tongs, they shaped metal links in intense forges, representing the raw physical strength demanded by heavy industry in the late 19th century. On the lawn of King's College Military Hospital in 1914, patients and nurses shared relaxed moments amid the challenges of the First World War. The institution played a vital role in treating the wounded until it was returned to civilian use in 1919, marking the post-war transition. A man undergoes an experimental therapy treatment in 1910 using an electric bath to fight rheumatism. The technique combined water and electric shocks controlled by a complex panel, reflecting early medical attempts to use electricity to relieve chronic pain. Newspaper clippings from 1933 detail the financial rise of Babe Ruth, the Bambino, listing yearly earnings that jumped from $600 in 1914 to $80,000 at his peak with the New York Yankees. The document illustrates the professionalization of baseball and the transformation of athletes into mass icons. Cooper apprentices take part in a traditional rite of passage in 1955 by being placed inside a barrel they made themselves. The practice includes covering the young man with soot and water, marking the end of his technical training and his official acceptance as a master in the craft of barrel making. Under severe weather conditions during the winter of 1962, a milk delivery man uses skis to travel along snow-covered streets in London. The unusual adaptation for city delivery ensures household supply is not interrupted, even as regular vehicles are stopped by heavy ice buildup on British roads. Jacob Nacken is measured for his Santa Claus costume in 1949, standing out for his height of about 7 feet 3 inches. A former German serviceman, he found a new career in entertainment after the world conflict and was recognized as one of the tallest men of his time. The airship Pilgrim, the first aircraft in the Goodyear fleet, serves as the Santa Claus Express in Akron, Ohio in 1925. This pioneering operation not only marked the history of aerial advertising, but also established the use of airships for promotional and holiday purposes. A volunteer dressed as Santa Claus collects donations on the streets of Chicago in 1902 to help the city's poor. The charity effort used signs and staged chimney props to gather funds, revealing the look and methods of urban philanthropy in the early 20th century. At a busy Philadelphia intersection in 1922, a police officer manually operated one of the first mechanical traffic signal systems. The device used metal signs marked stop and go to manage the growing flow of vehicles and pedestrians in the city. Animal psychologist Carl Kroll conducts a unique telepathy experiment between humans and dogs in the early 20th century. Using metal devices to isolate the senses, the research aimed to uncover unusual cognitive and sensory abilities in animals through the scientific lens of the time. Athletes take part in the women's hurdles event during the Paris Olympic Games in 1900. This edition was historic for marking the first participation of women in the competition, despite clothing and sporting conditions very different from today's events. A French detainee in the early 20th century shows a body covered in complex tattoos, including a mustache permanently drawn on his face. Such markings were common in the prison system of the time, serving as identity codes and records of personal stories inside penitentiaries. Drivers pose in front of an unusual sign in Fresno County in 1920, appealing to the honor of motorists. With no highway patrol at the time, the sign set a limit of 30 miles per hour, relying on collective conscience to keep California roads safe. Robert Wadlow, known as the Gentle Giant, rests in his custom-made bed in 1937. With shoes size 37 AA, his extraordinary height required made-to-order furniture, reflecting the daily challenges of the tallest man recorded in modern history. In the 1940s in Los Angeles, United States, pedestrians walk along a commercial avenue near the Ocean Park Pier Dome Theater with bright signs and aligned storefronts. Benches and streetlights appear along the sidewalk. The photo records daily city life and entertainment in the coastal areas of the city. British soldiers form an honor arch with ceremonial Lewis guns during a military wedding in 1918. This record captures the intersection of personal life and civic duty at the end of the First World War, when traditional rituals were adapted to the wartime context of the era. Railroad expansion across the United States reached Nevada territory in the middle of 1868. On a canyon slope, a Native American observer looks at the rails of the new transcontinental railroad cutting through an ancestral landscape. The technological advance permanently changed local geography and culture. Violet Jessup became an iconic figure in naval history for working as a stewardess and nurse on 3 Olympic-class ships. Known for resilience, she was present for the Olympic collision and survived the sinkings of the Titanic and the Britannic, keeping a seagoing career for decades. If you enjoyed this video and want to support the channel, please use the Super Thanks tool below. Your contribution helps us keep bringing you amazing historical content. Thank you so much for your support, and see you in the next video.